Bora Boye. You know, I remember one of my most powerful memories is being a transfer student. I went from Howard University and I transferred to UC Berkeley. And I remember that some of my units from Howard didn't transfer over to UC Berkeley. And as much as it was a bummer because I had put in 2 years at Howard, it was okay in another regard because at a certain point you can't transfer. If you know what I mean, there's a certain number of units that you have that will make you ineligible. I think like after your junior year or certain maybe in between your second and your third year, there's a certain number of units that they won't allow you to transfer because it means that you have not absorbed enough of the content and the methodology of the university that's giving you the degree. So in other words, you can't go to a University A for 3.5 years and then your last semester you transfer to University B and then claim to have, you know, the standard and the criteria that University B is issuing out. They want to guarantee that they have taught you certain things in a certain way. Okay? And so this is really pertinent because many times within Orisa Lifestyle, I come in contact with African American practitioners who have been exposed to the high sciences. Maybe you've been a Rosicrucian. Maybe you've been in Masonry. Maybe you've had some kind of exposure to other kinds of Gnostic studies, right? And you're looking at things from a let's say mathematical perspective, right? You got a big picture perspective on things, and now you want to engage in a conversation with a babalawo or an olorisha about Orisha, and the conversation goes awry because you're talking about things from a universal mathematical perspective, and the Orisha practitioner or the babalawo is not talking about it in that way. You know, they're not. And so I like to say that, you know, if you're someone who falls into that category, this is what has to happen. You have to be willing to either start over, okay? Not erase everything you know, not ignore everything you've learned, but you got to be willing to start at the beginning of Orisha and at the beginning of Ifa and work your way up so that you can be trained in the content and the methodology of our system, or you stay on the outside, you know, and do what you keep doing, but then you have friendly exchanges with people who are willing to talk to you about some of the overlaps or synchronicities between different systems, right? But you got to recognize that they're different, and you can't expect that other people who practice Orisa Lifestyle are going to accept your propositions about the divine law and about the universe and, you know, about different kinds of principles of spirituality or esoteric reality. They're not going to accept that. And the reason is this: it's not just about dogma. It's not about being rigid or unimaginative or even, you know, unfamiliar with some of the concepts. Not all of the time. What it boils down to for us as Orisha practitioners is that everything that we're talking about should be grounded in practical reality. So if I'm talking about Shango has certain principles, and I'm even able to talk about Shango's principles in an abstract, universal, mathematical way, everything I say is going to be tempered by the fact that I can go onto the other side of the house and I can engage in a conversation with Shango. I can start getting out implements and doing, you know, certain prayers and incantations and go through ritual sequences that should move the energy of Shango, right? So it isn't just something that I'm talking about. I should be able to go and engage that energy. If I'm talking about Oshun or Yemoja or Orumila or any of the divinities, I should be able to go and talk to that deity and engage with that deity, which is a little bit different from, you know, some of the things that people on who study, you know, esoteric sciences and stuff like that, you may not be used to that. And so it's you know, it depends on how you want to practice and what you are grounded in. And like I said, if you really truly want to understand what's happening within Orisha and to what extent the Orisha tradition does align with other esoteric traditions, you have to be willing. You've got to be willing to study and practice Orisha from the ground up. You can't go to the 11th grade and then jump over at the, you know, in the 12th grade and then say, boom, I'm talking about Ifa and Orisha using all these other terms. It won't fly, it won't stick. And nobody who's really grounded in the Orisha tradition will accept it. Mostly because we know that you cannot activate the principles that you are talking about. That's what it boils down to. And I mean, that's a little bit aggressive, but that's what it boils down to, right? If you're going to say you know all of these things about Shango, then at some point, if you run into a kind of a roughneck person, they're going to be like, well, prove it, right? There's an aspect of Orisa lifestyle that's like martial arts. Martial arts has got all kinds of high science, right? It talks about, there's all kinds of, geometry and physics and magnificent philosophical concepts that are built into martial arts. But when the rubber hits the road, it's like me and you facing off and prove it. If all the things that you're saying about your style is true, then let's go. And whoever is picking himself up off the ground will be able to determine the validity of his claims or not. Right? So there's a part of our tradition that is like that. So, you know, on the side of the Orisha people, it is important that we also, you know, we exercise a lot of restraint and we're very clear about where we're coming from and the cutoff point where it's like, you know what, this person has a lot of ideas and they're talking about a lot of different things, but it's clear that he doesn't know Shango like that. He doesn't know Ogun like that. He's talking about concepts, right? So I think this is important and vital for us to be able to engage in mutually respectful and beneficial conversations about universal law and where it intersects with the Orisha tradition. This is the School of Orisha Studies, by the way, and I'm your instructor, Obafemi Origunwa. I wish you well and pray that your learning and living becomes legendary. Aboraboye. Aboshishen.